Stand by for a transmission from DX Central. This broadcast is not a test. To confirm reception, please tune your radio to any AM or FM frequency and report your observations during this transmission. Again, this is not a test. Stand by for a transmission from DX Central. This broadcast is not a test. To confirm reception, stand by for a transmission from DX Central. This broadcast is not a test. To confirm reception, please tune your radio to any AM or FM frequency and report your observations during this transmission. Again, this is not a test. Stand by for a transmission from DX Central. This broadcast is not a test. To confirm reception, please tune your radio to any AM or FM frequency and report your observations during this transmission. Again, this is not a test.
This is Radio Havana, Cuba.
DX Central Live is brought to you in part by...
From the pages of its DX Monitor member bulletin, members of the International Radio Club of America share their domestic and international AMDX loggings. In its Mexican log, a wealth of information can be found of stations from south of the border. Technical guides, sunrise, sunset maps, and more make the IRCA a must-join for any AMDXer. For more information, log on to ircaonline.org. That's ircaonline.org. While the HF bands can be filled with entertaining and intriguing transmissions, how do you know when and where to look? Let Teak Publishing's Global Radio Guide lead the way. In addition to its exhaustive list of time and frequency for international broadcasters, radio hobby icon Gail Van Horn brings you equipment reviews, an SDR buyer's guide, feature articles, and more. Pick up your copy today. Visit teakpublishing.com for more information. That's teakpublishing.com. Since 1933, the National Radio Club has been serving AMDXers while providing some of the most in-depth information in the hobby. From the annual NRC AM log, a must-have reference for domestic station information, to antenna design reference manuals, and of course, the DX News Member Bulletin, which is filled with station information updates, domestic and international loggings, and a whole lot more. Become a member today. For more information, log on to nationalradioclub.org. That's nationalradioclub.org.
Through crashes of static in quiet hours, we listen. In languages we can scarcely understand, and of places we have only visited in our dreams, we listen. Incessantly, we perfect our array of aerials, receivers, and resources. We refine our skills and our techniques so that we might listen. We are DX Central, and we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Keep up with DX Central. Follow us on Twitter at DX Central.
The Gulf South
to your corner of the world.
This is DX Central Live.
Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
It's DX Central Live from the North Shore Studios here in Mandeville, Louisiana. My friends, welcome to another week as we gander into the atmosphere with our antennas and radios and see what comes through. Appreciate you all being with us as always on a Friday night here in now October. Welcome to October, right? Busy week this week here. Got some folks already in the chat. Nice to see you guys there. Had a lot going on this week. Let's see. After the last 2 episodes of DX Central Live, where we had some computer issues, I'll say that. I decided this week to take matters into my own hands. And I have always been of the opinion that here at DX Central Live, one of the things that we would always do is strive for quality in what we bring you guys, right? It's never going to be kind of half-assed. It's never going to be just like, oh, it's good enough. It's just DX. No, I want this to be a professional representation. I want this to be a quality product that DXers will be proud of, and non-DXers will be like, hey, what's that? So when I have a live stream that's glitchy and computer issues and things like that, I will not stop until I get that fixed. So this week, we put in a new video card into the computer, a new power supply to power that video card, and hopefully just upgrade the power supply in general to reduce noise and things like that from the computer. We upgraded to 64 gigs, so we doubled our memory from 32 to 64 gigs of memory. Installed, what else did I install? Power supply, memory, video card. Oh, 2 new hard drives. So I installed and added the second SSD and upgraded my 4 terabyte hard drive to a 16 terabyte. And the last piece will be here actually tomorrow. I was trying to get it in today, but it won't be here till tomorrow. And that is a new capture card that I can use for camera 1, which you're noticing tonight. We're actually back on camera 2. Camera 1, it's still not reliable. So rather than kind of muddle through it, I figured, nope, I'm going to give you guys what I know works. And then we'll deal with camera 2 and get that all sorted out, and you can come back with that next week. So just some things that we're trying to do here to make sure that we give you guys top quality products. I don't want any of this stuff to be kind of like, it's good enough. It's good. It's just AMDX. Come on. No, not at all. I want you guys to get the good stuff. So appreciate you kind of sitting with us here through the last 2 weeks as we kind of dealt with some of those computer issues. I know week 1, it completely shut us down. Week 2, it made it kind of tricky. So hopefully I've done some testing. It looks like everything's working much more smoothly except for camera 1, which we're going to get that fixed tomorrow. Another thing that we have this week is we just received our replacement DX Commander antenna. Some of you guys know I'm a ham radio operator, and I have had a quarter wave vertical antenna that covered 40 through 10 meters on the ham bands. It was a DX Commander, and due to some, we'll say, less than ideal engineering on my part, where the ground stakes were involved that kept it up in the air, it came down through a windstorm, broke the pole, broke some of the elements, tore the wire and all that kind of stuff, some of the plastic pieces that keep all that together. So ordered a brand new one. It came in today. So tomorrow I'll be spending some time putting up an antenna, and I plan on doing a live stream, not here on YouTube, but over on our Twitter account. So make sure that you're following us over if you're interested in watching our antenna build. Make sure you're following us over on Twitter, twitter.com/DXCentral, because I'll be doing a live stream on Twitter as we're doing the build. So as I'm putting all the pieces together and cutting all the wire and doing all the stuff, I'll try to get the live stream running during that. I don't know what time we're going to get started. It's just kind of whenever we kind of go, we're going to go. So make sure you're following over on Twitter, and we'll announce there a little bit ahead of time before we do start the live stream. And hopefully I can get it all done tomorrow. I learned some stuff last time I put that up that I hope I can apply this time to get it up pretty quick and get it up in the air and use it this weekend. So we got that. Some on tap for tonight, we've got the results from week 1. I decided this year, rather than typing a big article that I wasn't sure if anyone was reading or not, I'm just going to do a video. I'm not sure if anyone's going to watch or not, but I figure a video is a little more fun. It's kind of what we do here. We do videos a lot of times. So we're going to have a video that we're going to play here in a bit after the top of the hour that has the results from week 1, where we were looking at 1160 to 1224 in our medium wave frequency challenge. Obviously, tonight we're finishing up week 2, which is 670 to 702. And later on tonight, we're going to be announcing week 3, which is, we're going to talk about that later on. So, yeah, we're going to have a lot going on tonight. Obviously, a lot of DXing will be happening. We're going to talk about our Perseus SDR. Last week, we talked about the AirSpy and the SDR Sharp software. Tonight, we're talking about our Perseus and the Jaguar software. I know we've got some folks who are using it or getting started on using it or maybe wanting to use it. So we're going to talk about what makes it tick and what makes it so great. So, tonight's DX Central Live is brought to you in part by Wexford Irish Style Cream Ale. Did the rum and coke the last couple nights. Tonight we're going back to the beers here. Got a Wexford Cream Ale. So cheers, my friends. Whatever you might be consuming, whether it's an adult beverage or not. Cheers to you, and welcome to week 3. Let's get ready for some live DX. Of course, this hour of live DX is brought to you by International Radio Club of America, the IRCA. IRCA Online is the website you go to for more information about becoming a member of the IRCA. Our usual tour through the shack with the upgrades we did on our PC. Guess what, guys? We got all 3 SDRs up and running tonight. That means we've got the Perseus with the Jaguar software. We've got our Lankford-Misek Phaser. Our friend Carl DeWitt, who is actually, I think he's in, yeah, here he is. He bought a Lankford-Misek Phaser this week. So we're going to try to show you guys how we use that. And how that works. Maybe you guys might be interested in trying to obtain one. Definitely talk about that in the chat over here. Carl can tell you what he did and where he got that from. So we got the 2 kHz coming into the Lankford-Misek Phaser. We've got our Colin Newell built vactrols on the back ends of those. Right now we got I think one's the southwest and the northwest. So we're looking out kind of westish, but we might be changing that later on tonight. For SDR number 2, we've got our SDR Console software up and running with our Elad FDMS3. We've got our 16x53 north-south CAS in the south position. And we have a Colin Newell built vactrol there as well. And then finally, let me get my mouse down here. We've got our FlexRadio, Flex 6400. This is the newest addition to the family of SDRs here at DX Central. This is our ham radio transceiver, but we're also using it for AM DXing. And then we have 2 W6 LVP loops into this one. This is the SmartSDR software by Flex that we're using here on screen. This is what we're going to be putting that DX Commander vertical in. And we're going to try. I'm going to give it a shot and see what it does for AM DX. I don't know. I didn't even do it last time. When I had the DX Commander up, I never tested it on AM, so we're gonna see. I don't know, maybe it's nothing, but at the very least, we'll give it a shot. So let's start with the Jaguar and Perseus software. We're right up on top of the hour. Let's go for a top of the hour alert. We're going red. And you guys know what that means. It's time for us to look around the dial here on the Jaguar software. Let's go.
Next time, the power of propaganda.
Let's go back down here to let's do 670. Actually, let's start at 680. Let's do 680 here.
Now is tied for the team lead in touchdown rushes with 4 after his 50-yard plus touchdown run to start our scoring in first quarter action. We're going to see Hartley punt for the first time.
Sounds like we got some high school football tonight.
You know, it almost felt like Whitewater was giving Trinity Christian a break right there.
Our friend Charles let us know in the chat the Perseus SDR is back in stock at HRO in case any of you folks are interested in a Perseus after tonight.
10, 12, 15 punters in the state of Georgia. So special teams going to be at a premium. We also didn't mention that we've got the Snelling kid from Whitewater. He's a Georgia commit. Will Snellings is a senior who...
Good job, Coastal. Does that mean that's your first ever Japan? That's a new country for you, right? We have to celebrate that here in a bit. Sorry, Coaster Productions. HRO is great. That's where I got my Perseus. That's where I got my RSP DX. I love them too, Barry. A little pricey sometimes, but I do like them.
Ran over the receiver, really without seeing what was going on in the play in front of him. Just sort of lost where he was on the field there for a moment. So Broadnax is back out the shotgun set as we will always see him. A deep shotgun set, by the way. You've got 3 wide receivers, 3 to the top side, 2 to the bottom side. That's merely a clear out. As he takes the snap, runs to the right side, kicks down the sideline, follows the blocker, gets the first down, all the way into plus territory at about the 47-yard line of Whitewater. Minute and a half into second quarter action. Broadnax has not run it much this year, on 22 carries in the 6 games, but averaging 8.3 yards a carry. And when you have when the passing game's not working, you got to use every weapon at your disposal. And so often, coaches don't look at their quarterback as a runner when that's exactly what the defense will give you. Broadnax completing 62% of his passes so far this year. We've sent that one goes sailing on him. And thankfully so, as he was trying to fire to Randon Harris. Double covered on the play. Broadnax, a team that played last night in Brooklyn. Grizzlies playing 41. Their third 88 completion, 141.
So I'll come back to this in a second because I can rewind it. But we got 3 stations in here: high school football in Georgia, WCN in Atlanta. We've got another sports station talking about basketball. That's probably WMFS in Memphis. And then we had that country music station underneath there. That's probably KKYX in San Antonio, Texas. Rewound a little bit. That's Grizzlies basketball. That's Memphis.
Cougars out at Liberty, our Simmons Bank, Liberty State. So hopefully that will go well. Hopefully the Grizzlies can take some strides forward, getting ready for that October 19th opener against the New York Knicks. It was a good night for the Grizzlies Monday inside this building. They took out the Orlando Magic. The starting 5 got their first taste of preseason action. They look very good doing so. 27.
Barry asked if I ever did log this week WWFE La Poderosa down in Miami. I don't know. No, I didn't. The only Spanish stations I heard on 670 this week were Cuba and Cuba. And we'll talk about that here in a bit. We did hear the usual Rebellion suspects, but also a outlet, a network outlet on 670 that normally is not there. So we'll talk about that here in a bit. SCR was in there, yes. I did get them.
We've talked about him, 60 total tackles, which lead his club entering the ball game. Honorable mention All-State last year. 4-star kid, 6'2", 220. Will linebacker for Whitewater. Highest rated recruit in Wildcat history. Handoff to a wide receiver who comes streaking across the backfield, and that was a play called that Whitewater was absolutely, positively ready for. Dropped in the backfield by the strong safety, Terrell White, who's just made his 28th tackle of the year for about a 3-yard loss. And that was a fantastic job of staying home. A reverse. He did not fall for it. He stayed in, and he wasn't alone. Several of his teammates stayed home, too. There was nowhere to go. He's the man who makes the tackle for the loss. Timeout. Timeout called by Whitewater. I'm not sure what they saw there they didn't like, but there was definitely something that didn't agree with them.
All right, we're putting the Google form link.
Well, you know, Doug, I was just about to mention their defense.
There's the Google form link in the chat for everybody. That is for week 2. So if you still have some submissions you want to submit for week 2, you've got about 57 minutes to get those in. We'll be closing out shop at 0100 UTC here for week 2 and announcing week 3 at that time. So about 53 minutes or so left. 57, sorry, minutes left for week 2.
Usually find them in a 4-man front, but they were sitting in a 3-man front with someone dropped back. I think it was Glover, almost in a linebacker type position. But they had all 3 linebackers dropped back, and a safety was up on the line of scrimmage. So it was trying to figure out what defensive line that is. I sure would appreciate.
Nicely done, Bill. They WWFE actually used to be a pretty loud one when I was in Charleston. You might imagine, right there on the coast. You can hear them daytime. Actually, with a portable radio in the backyard, I could listen to the La Poderosa in the backyard daytime from Charleston. It was pretty cool. Loved that place. But I tell you what, other than a little bit less on the daytime here, this location's been pretty damn good. All right, so we've got our 2 stations here. We've got go back live. We've got our 2 stations here. We have WMFS in Memphis, and we have WCNN up in Atlanta. Those are our 2 main stations that we have right now coming in. That map seems a little backwards, doesn't it? That seems a little backwards. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to do our announcement for week 1 results and let you guys see who the top dog was in week 1 when we were looking 1160 to 1224. So we'll talk about that, and we'll also finish up our DX here on 670 to 702. We're going to do a little bit of a dive into the Jaguar software and the Perseus SDR that goes with that. We may even pop up that's better. Good job, Jaguar. We may even pop up the Perseus software as well, so to give you guys a chance to kind of see what the actual Perseus software looks like in comparison to Jaguar. So let's do that quick break. When we come back, more live DX and lots of fun right here on DX Central Live. Don't go away.
DX Central, because we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central. DX Central Live is brought to you in part by...
Since 1933, the National Radio Club has been serving AMDXers while providing some of the most in-depth information in the hobby. From the annual NRC AM log, a must-have reference for domestic station information, to antenna design reference manuals, and of course, the DX News Member Bulletin, which is filled with station information updates, domestic and international loggings, and a whole lot more. Become a member today. For more information, log on to nationalradioclub.org. That's nationalradioclub.org. While the HF bands can be filled with entertaining and intriguing transmissions, how do you know when and where to look? Let Teak Publishing's Global Radio Guide lead the way. In addition to its exhaustive list of time and frequency for international broadcasters, radio hobby icon Gail Van Horn brings you equipment reviews, an SDR buyer's guide, feature articles, and more. Pick up your copy today. Visit teakpublishing.com for more information. That's teakpublishing.com. From the pages of its DX Monitor Member Bulletin, members of the International Radio Club of America share their domestic and international AMDX loggings. In its Mexican log, a wealth of information can be found of stations from south of the border. Technical guides, sunrise, sunset maps, and more make the IRCA a must-join for any AMDXer. For more information, log on to ircaonline.org. That's ircaonline.org.
Through crashes of static in quiet hours, we listen. In languages we can scarcely understand, and of places we have only visited in our dreams, we listen. Incessantly, we perfect our array of aerials, receivers, and resources. We refine our skills and our techniques so that we might listen. We are DX Central, and we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Keep up with DX Central. Follow us on Twitter at DX Central.
From the DX Central North Shore Studios, this is DXC Live. Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
It's DX Central Live from the North Shore Studios here in Mandeville, Louisiana. Good evening, my friends. Hopefully you're having a great Friday night, as always, and a great week of DX. Lots of logs this week. You guys are really bringing in the logs. I remember, obviously the first 2 weeks last year was our first time we did the medium wave frequency challenge. And so it was kind of, building as we went along. But I just really right out the gate, the first 2 weeks, so many stations, logged these first 2 weeks. So we've already started off on a strong foot this year. So thank you all who have been part of the fun and participated, submitted your logs in the Google form. We did put the one for week 2 back up here in the chat. And obviously we'll be announcing week 3 here a little bit later on around the top of the hour. Let's go ahead, and speaking of that, let's go ahead and look back, if we can now, at week 1. So think back to last week when we were finishing up week 1, 1160 to 1224. Let's see who our top dog was, rather. I swear I know English. Our top dog, who was that? Who had the most states, most countries, and some other little nuggets as well. Let's take a trip down to Review Town. There we go. There's a microphone. The week 1 results from our medium wave frequency challenge. Congratulations, James and Rob and the whole crew, everybody who submitted logs. We really appreciate you guys being there and being part of the fun and submitting. I did notice I neglected to include one thing, which was the total number of logs that we had week 1. 362 logs submitted. 362 total logs submitted. So I'll make sure we get that in for future weeks, that total. But amazing stuff to have. We had obviously our DXer in Tunisia, Ashraf, contributing over 5,000 mile reception. We had Rob in Union, South Carolina, there in the upstate, contributing UK Absolute Radio on 1215, so over 4,000, almost 5,000 from his location, which absolutely is just phenomenal. I don't know if that's pretty close to our record from last year. I'll have to go back and double check and see. I don't remember what the record was last year for mileage, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty close. So we'll see if that breaks the all-time record, if either one of those are close on that. So again, thank you to everyone who participated, and we'll be wrapping up here week 2 tonight, 670 to 702 here in the next 45 minutes or so, and then announcing week 3 a bit later on in the show. All right, so talking online and social media this week with some friends of the channel here. We did have a couple of folks talking about Jaguar software, so I said, okay, then let's focus on that this week on the live stream, like we did last week with SDR Sharp and the AirSpy. So this week we're going to talk about the Perseus SDR and the Jaguar software that we use with that. Now, obviously, there's also a Perseus software specifically made by Perseus for the Perseus. We'll talk about that probably a little bit later. I'll show you that. I know you guys have probably seen the screenshots. The Jaguar is a program developed by some DXers over in Europe who were specifically making SDR software for the Perseus for AMDX only. When you look at software like, the Perseus software, or if you're looking at like SDR Console here that you see on screen, things like that, this is software that's made for the SDR to be used however you're going to use it. If you're doing AMDX, FMDX, shortwave, ham radio, long wave, VHF, UHF, whatever the capabilities of that frequency range of the SDR, it's there to use for the entire thing. The difference with Jaguar and what this was developed for was specifically to be used for medium wave AMDX. And it's only available to be used at this time, at least, with the Perseus SDR. I know Ipa, the folks who the designer of the program, who programs everything on it, has talked about maybe expanding that out a little bit. We're offering some suggestions. I know others have as well. But right now it's just tethered to the Perseus for the most part. So if you have a Perseus SDR already, let me show you what Jaguar can do. If you don't have a Perseus rather, I bought the Perseus specifically to use this program. Everyone has their cost point that kind of makes it worth it for them. For me, I felt like I was just, whatever the sticker price was on the Perseus, that's what I was paying for the software. I didn't care so much about I know the Perseus was going to work great, but if it was the AirSpy that I was using or the Elad or whatever, that's secondary. Whatever that sticker price is for that radio is what I'm paying to get this software. That's kind of the way I looked at it, right? So, is the software really that worth it if you don't already have a Perseus? That's up to you. Is it worth it if you do have a Perseus? Oh yeah. Let me show you why. So we're going to start with just some of the basic functionality. I'm not going to deep dive too deep in here. We'll save that for another video for later. But we're going to show you some of the basic functionality, what kind of separates Jaguar out here. So you connect everything up and you get there's a light version that's free that you kind of start with. It has limited features in there in the light version. Then you have a full pro version, which is this one, Jaguar Pro. It's I think $50 last time I checked, or somewhere in there, 50 to 75, somewhere in there, for a lifetime license. And you get the key from the developers, and then you're rocking and rolling. When you do log in and you turn on the software, the first thing you're going to notice here is a couple things. One is this is the Spectra. They call it the Spectra. This is really the waterfall. So if you think back to like SDR Console, you have a spectrum analyzer up top, which has your signals, your peaks and valleys, and you have a waterfall down here at the bottom, which is a representation of the signals, kind of more like a waveform, right? That's what we're looking at here in Jaguar. This is kind of the waveform. However, the key difference here is in SDR Console, we can zoom out pretty far. I can zoom out and see the entire bandwidth that I have selected here for my Elad FDMS3. So I can see all that. I can also zoom in pretty tight. We're here on 670. Let me zoom in here. Now, if I zoom in really tight on 670 and I slow down the waterfall to, I think it's, if you go to view, go to speed like 1 or 2 in here, you can see the resolution increases and you can see these individual offsets. I've talked about offsets before. What an offset really is when you're on 670, you think the station's transmitting on 670. Not necessarily. Some transmitters may be on 670.096 or 669.987 or 670.2. You know, it can be kind of off like that. Traditionally, usually the ones in the United States are pretty close, relatively pretty close. Sometimes I'll see some of the South American ones will be a little more off frequency. Colombia especially is really good for that, being kind of more off frequency, which actually really is nice for us as DXers. You'll also see sometimes these transmitters will drift, and so it's not even a locked in offset. Sometimes they drift between like down here, so they may start at like 670.099 and they go down to about 670.00001 and then they come back around again. So you can actually see that on the waterfall. What you have with Jaguar is, instead of that really super zoomed out thing, it's always kind of zoomed in here on the offset. So the most you can really see off of that carrier center frequency is about 500 hertz down, 500 hertz above. That's your maximum kind of zoom out that you can do here, and I'll actually show you if I zoom out here. This is your maximum zoom out, about 500 hertz down, 500 hertz up. But then you can zoom in and you can see these individual signal traces here from these stations. And because of that, because we have stations that we can kind of deduce, okay, this one is on 670.0964, and I've narrowed that down to this station, right? And because DXers around the world are reporting that, we can actually use that to help us identify who it is. It's not guaranteed, it's not an exact science, but it's part of that evidence that you have at your disposal. And you'll actually see that here. Another part of Jaguar that's pretty cool is there's a built-in station list into it. It's what's called the Turtle database. And actually, let me see if I can download the most recent here. Downloading, and nope, we have the most recent here is September. You'll notice here in this part right here, you'll see like 680.0029, 680.0025, 679.9948. Those are those offsets. So DXers around the world report those offsets based on what they're seeing and they're hearing, and then we can use that to help us identify these signals. Again, you can still do that outside of Jaguar. You can do that in things like here with SDR Console, because as you can see, now I'm right now in SDR Console. This is looking to the south, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 main carriers here on 670. And if I go to 670 here on my Jaguar, you're going to see I've got pretty much the same thing. I've got one here, one here, one here, and there's probably another one if I zoom out a bit. Yeah, here's one over here. So there's one in here, one in here, one here, and then one over here. It's a little bit weaker. So yeah, I'm seeing basically the same thing. It's just the presentation of it. I can get a little more zoomed in here, as you can see. I can get really zoomed in on Jaguar. So what is that again? That helps me to identify a station, or helps me narrow down who it is that I'm hearing. Especially helpful when you're trying to identify a station like. I use the example a lot here, Radio Monumental on 1510. Go to the South American stations here. Radio Monumental is known to be around 1509.9865. So I can then look for an offset. Here is one at 9918, and it's not going to probably be them. Let me see if I can zoom out just a little bit here. Yeah, I'm not seeing them. So I would look in somewhere in here to see if I see a signal peak or a trace of a signal on my spectrum to see if I'm hearing Ecuador. If I don't see one, I still can listen, because sometimes it can be a little weak audio coming through, even if you don't really see much of a signal trace. But I can pretty much deduce here, because there's nothing that I probably don't have Radio Monumental coming through right now. I have something down here at 1509.9332. Who is that? Do we have a 933 reported? Let me look at Central America. No. Do we have anything U.S. based? There's a .84 in Missouri. .9332. No, I don't see anything. So that could be, no, probably not Spokane. So you can use this to kind of help you narrow down who it is that you're hearing. So that's one of the great features of Jaguar. Again, a lot of SDR software you can do that. I know, like in SDR Sharp last week, we saw like the micro tuner, things like that. But in Jaguar, it's you have that station list with the offsets right above up here, and you're having a nice zoomed in focus on here. Another couple things you're going to notice here is the interface itself and changing frequencies. So right here I have these little yellow bars you're going to see here, and what these are, each one of these is a frequency, but you're going to see, like right here, you just saw it, 880 right here. The yellow bar is full right now, but it's going to dip down here in a second. In a few moments here, it's going to dip down a bit lower. What those are is basically it's letting you know if there's a signal there. And this time of the night, everything is lit up because everything is coming in Skywave, so no biggie there. But where this can help is right now I'm on 10 kilohertz spacings. But I can go over here and change that to 9 kilohertz spacings. So if I'm looking for transatlantic, trans-Pacific stations on those splits in between, I can just quickly look here and see if anything's coming in. Now, some of these little ones you see in here are probably going to be things like noise interference from local stations. So like right over here, we have some interference from 940 coming in because we have a local on 940. Here where is 870, so I would probably have some interference in here and things like that. But by and large, when you see a little signal in here, a little bar popping up in between, like these that you see right here that are kind of spaced out, these are where the 9 kilohertz and the 10 kilohertz cross over, and you have, you know, US and non-US stations here on 900, for instance. But if you see things like kind of in between in there, that can clue you off that maybe something's coming in transoceanic. So you don't even have to really do any listening. You can just kind of look and see. And if you see something kind of popping up, then you can go check it out. Another thing that this is absolutely probably the number one for me for Jaguar. Everybody has different features that they use. And like I said, we're not going to talk about them all tonight. But probably the absolute number one thing for me when it comes to Jaguar and why this is such a powerful thing for AMDX, it's a combination of the station list and this down here. What you see this, I talked about this so many times on our live stream. You see this green bar down here at the bottom, and it's kind of getting bigger as we go along. It starts off on the left-hand side, and it gets bigger as you go. That is a recording that Jaguar is making. It creates a file, basically, and says, I'm going to start recording the entire AM broadcast band. And it starts it from the moment you start up the program, and it runs until it reaches about 8 minutes. It's an 8-minute long recording. And at the end of that 8 minutes, it starts back over and starts a new recording. You'll see it when we get to the end over here. It's going to disappear all this green, and it's going to go back over here on the left-hand side, and it'll just be starting over from there. Why is that powerful? Well, how many times have you been in the shack? And I talked about this actually last night on Twitter. I'll have my headphones on and be DXing, but not really paying attention. And then I'll hear something in my headphones where it's like, La Poderosa, or whatever it might be. And I'm like, wait, what did he say? Now, if I'm in another piece of software, I'm just using this as an example, so I'm not slouting or being detrimental here to SDR Console. But if I did not hit record in SDR Console, that moment is gone, right? It's like the old days of TV. We had to run in, what did he say on that show? And then I can't rewind it, you know? But now we have DVRs, we can rewind it and say, what did he say? Go back and do it. Kind of think about this like a DVR. There's like an 8-minute long DVR that's always kind of there and keeping it rolling. And so you can rewind it. Even while it's still recording that 8-minute window, I can still, in that live moment, rewind it and go back and see what was said before. And then I can, if I hear something, I'm like, I want to keep that. I can hit the record button at any time in that 8 minutes, and it keeps that entire recording, and then it keeps going from there until you tell it to stop. But again, if you don't hit that record button to keep it, at the end of the 8 minutes, it erases that old file, and now it starts a new one, right? And so you have this kind of continuous 8-minute long file that it's writing and overwriting and writing and overwriting, and unless you tell it, keep that one. Keep that part right there, because there was something in there I heard that I liked. That, to me, I can't tell you how many times I've been able to log a station where I wasn't recording at the time. It was recording for me, and something just popped up, and I hit record. And when you do that, when you hit record, you're getting the entire band. So I may have heard La Poderosa here on 670. I'm like, wait, did he say La Poderosa? And I go back and I hit record, go back and listen to it, right? And I'm like, okay, yeah, he did. But now I've also captured, maybe if they were IDing right there, maybe someone else was IDing on another frequency, I'm capturing all those other frequencies too. Really freaking cool, man. So that little live DVR thing is one of the things about Jaguar that to me separates it from everybody else. And if I had one request to all the other SDR software manufacturers, what feature would I ask them to put in there? That is it. Because if I had that feature in any of the other programs, I might be a little more inclined to use them more often. But that one feature is what keeps me coming back to the Jaguar, is that ability for me to always have that little window that's recording so I can make sure that I don't miss anything. Another thing that, talking about recordings, that's really cool is you have this thing called Mestor. And Mestor is the recording interface that you can set up like a schedule to record. And it's the easiest way that I've ever seen anybody implement a recording schedule. And this is my Mestor here. So it's an active one right now. So what mine is right now it says starting at 99 minutes before sunset, local sunset. Then 75 minutes after sunrise. Everything in between that little window there, I want you to start recording at 7 minutes after the hour. I'm sorry, 57 minutes after the hour to 7 minutes after the hour. That's what I want you to do. So it starts recording at 57 and it stops at 07. And that's basically everything that would happen kind of at a network break, where the IDs are going to be most likely. And 07's where most of your network has done a rejoin by then and they're back into syndicated programming. So that is that little 10-minute window that records the entire band, and it starts about an hour and a half or so before my local sunset, and it does that every hour at the top of the hour for 10 minutes overnight through sunset, overnight through sunrise until 75 minutes after my local sunrise, and then it stops and doesn't do anything during the day. And it does that every day. I don't have to go back and remind it. I don't have to go back and set a bunch of different schedules for different days and do all that kind of different stuff. You can get super granular on this, but I just wanted to do that every day. And so it does that every day until I tell it to stop. I can go over there and change that whenever I want to. So that's another one of those things. It's super easy, and you'll see when we get to 57 after the hour, this green down here is going to change to red. That means it's recording. So super, super easy. And then once I do have a recording, it's really easy for me to navigate between those recordings and be able to see what I caught. Just like in SDR Console, if you've watched our SDR Console video, we talked about reviewing IQ recordings. You know that I have here the ability to use this next and previous button here to go from one file to the next file or go back to other files. So let's say I start my initial review is the last file of the morning right after sunrise, and then I want to just go back in time and see what I caught on a single frequency. I can do that same thing here in Jaguar. So I would be able to go back and say, okay, here's my 2357 here, my 2357 recording, and then I can skip anywhere in here using the little slider down here at the bottom. I can slide anywhere in here to any point in time and be able to review what was being done at that time. So super easy to review the recording after it's already been done. And then I can just keep on going back and I can say, okay, let me go back now to the next one that I had, right? So you can keep going through and skipping through those different files. Another part of that I really like, another feature that's really cool here in Jaguar is the map feature. So if I go up here and I click on the maps button, this brings me a map up that I can see. I use this all the time, especially when I'm doing international DX down in Latin America. Right now, what it helps me do is it actually shows me, if I'm going to go in here, it shows me that gray line. So I can look and see very clearly who are the gray line, who's in the gray line, who's out of the gray line, who's already in darkness, who's still in daylight, which helps me narrow down my list of candidates of what I'm hearing, right? So this gives me that nice visual that I can use. It also gives me an idea of, okay, this one is a 5 kilowatt station. This one, you see it's a little bit bigger star. The star is a little bit bigger on the SDR. That means it's a higher powered station. A bigger star on KLTT, higher powered station. So that can give me an idea if I'm like, okay, I know my antenna's pointing northwest. Who am I hearing here? I can look and see very clearly, okay, here's a 50 kilowatt station. That's a good candidate. I've also got another station here, 5 kilowatt. That's a candidate. I'm also hearing some Spanish. Well, I know I've got all these Rebeldy stations down here, so it's most likely Rebeldy. Things like that, right? This can help me narrow it down very quickly, very easily, be able to kind of see what's on Freak, or my candidates. It's not saying that I'm not hearing WLUI up here in Pennsylvania. I'm saying it's less likely because I'm pointing northwest, and you can actually put in your antennas here, and then you can say, here's the bearing of it, here's the beam width of my antenna, and you can actually see, okay, right now, this is my 153 degree antenna that I have, right? Or I'm sorry, my 150 degree antenna, my 16 by 53. So when it's pointing south like it is right now, this is what it's actually seeing. It's looking in that direction. Not to say that it won't have some stuff off the sides, but it actually will show me what I would be targeting, what's in the beam width of that antenna. And these are all the different antennas that I have. So right now, this is my, go back to here's my 22 by 70 northwest. You can see everything in that hatched area is something that would be potentially in the beam width of my antenna, of my CAS antenna. So that can also help you visualize and say, okay, with that in mind, let me go back to my maps. What do I have in that target area? Again, it's not saying that something outside of that wouldn't be possible, but it helps you streamline and narrow in. Another thing that I use on the regular basis is some of the filtering and like bandwidth and things like that. So it's a little bit different here in Jaguar compared to some of the other pieces of software that are out there. But in this one, I will say, of all the different SDR software, Jaguar has the best audio quality for AMDX. And the reason that it has that is because the designers actually put in some filtering, audio filtering presets into the software that are designed to maximize for AMDX. You'll see right here, there's a button that says Calliope. Down here in New Orleans, we call it Calliope. That's how we pronounce it down here. It's a road in New Orleans. So I can click on this and I can go to AM, which is full AM mode, right? So regular traditional AM mode. Even that though has some audio filtering that makes it sound a little bit better. I can use CW. There's a CW option for like DX tests and things like that. There's a stock, which is kind of what you usually hear, right? I look at it as like, this is what normally I would be hearing. So you can actually compare between stock and say Jazz or Calliope as which one gives you the better audio quality. I usually keep it on Calliope. That's the one I found has been really, really good at helping me be able to pull out audio. And then once you're in Calliope, I can bounce back and forth between upper and lower sideband, right? Another thing that you have here is you have bandwidth. And you can set your bandwidth by left clicking. You widen your bandwidth, like I'm going up to 4.8 here, or I can right click and I can bring it back down again and tighten up my bandwidth. And you can even adjust the bandwidth edges that you're using there from kind of a more gradual one to like a real sharp. Let me show you here. If I go over here to where it says bass, I have a steep, I have a studio, and then I have my regular bass. Let me give you the audio examples of what this sounds like. So I'm going to tighten up here to, let's go to 2.8. It's a nice tight sideband filter, right? Let's look at 2.8 hertz here. Kilohertz. This is bass. Steep. Studio. Bass. Right? So you can see by doing that, it gets very, it can change that shape of that filter that we have in set to how it's going to control that audio coming through. You also have an offset over here. I usually keep mine around 0.3 anyway, and what that does is by going 0.3 above, if I'm in upper sideband, or if I'm in lower sideband, I can go also negative 0.3, I think. It rolls off some of the bassiness and gives me a little more treble and allows me to be able to pull out IDs a little bit easier. You can also have these presets here where you set your bandwidth a certain way. So I can say, give me a 2.0 bandwidth with a 0.3 offset, a 3.0 bandwidth with a 0.3 offset, and so forth. So you can do that. And I think usually I keep mine around 3 and 0.3 is where I usually have mine. Yeah, that's about right. 3 and 0.3 is where I usually set mine at. So that's just a quick way. I don't have to go in here and grab lines and do all that kind of stuff. I can just easily change it, and it's maximized for AMDX. So we talked about the recording capabilities and the live DVR aspects of it. We've talked about how to change frequencies using these little flags down here. You can also just hover over the middle frequency here, and you can use your scroll wheel on your mouse to change frequencies as well. You can also do that. You can also set it up so that you can change files that way. I think at least you used to be able to. Another one up here is with this map here. Let's just pretend that I hear KLTT. I'm like, oh, there's KLTT. I just got them. If I click on that, I can actually link this to my account that I have at Medium Wave List, and I can submit this log to Medium Wave List, and it also submits it here into this program. So when you see here, you'll see a difference. Some of these are yellow, some of these are white. The ones that are in white are ones that I've heard. I've actually heard them from here. Now this one is not, because I didn't actually hear them. But the ones that are in white here are the ones that I've actually heard. And when I hit that submit, and I can submit that log to Medium Wave List, it actually uploads that for me automatically. Now I wrote everything I've logged is on Medium Wave List, as well as here on my program, as well as whatever logbook I'm using. And you can also see that here when you see this little yellow highlight here on the station list. That's one that I've heard. And you can see you can break this down by region. So you got Central America here, which is like the Caribbean and all Central America. You got South America here, Oceania, Asia, Africa, and Europe, which obviously we're not on a 9 kilohertz frequency, so there's nothing there. But if you're chasing after those regions, you can change to those on the map as well as your station list. So it makes it much, much easier. And you can customize the coloring in here of how everything presents. Right now I'm in the yellow, but there's also an ice blue, there's a white, there's a green, there's a blue, there's a gray. I like the yellow. It's kind of my favorite. Some of the other things we're going to probably talk about in our more advanced session when we make a separate video for this. The YAS log. Voyager scans. You can actually have it scan when it records your files for you. Can actually have it scan and look for potential signals and what it thinks it might be, when you basically let you know if there's something there, which is pretty cool. This conditions one, actually I can go ahead and show you this one now. This one is just, it's solar conditions, and it keeps a running log of solar conditions here for you. And you can see, like if I'm right here where we are right now on the main pointer, global A index 14, K index 1, polar A index 19, K index 1, BZ is negative 21, and it gives you all this kind of charted out, so you can actually see when there are like auroral conditions occurring, but easier here on screen. Pretty cool stuff. Trying to think, we have our AGC here on and off. Here in the NOLA area where I am, I have to attenuate my Perseus a little bit. So I hit Alt-P, and I can add up to 30 dB of attenuation just like you normally can. But I usually keep it at 1. I usually keep it at 1, attenuation 1, which is 10 dB. Trying to think if there's anything else my Perseus Jaguar crowd actually works with here, let me know. I use this one quite a bit here too, this little parallel. So like if I'm trying to see, okay, is what I'm hearing here a rebellion outlet, I'll go here to 670 and then I'll go to 1180. And then I'll hit that button, this little compare button here. I'll just bounce back and forth between the two. So I can very quickly A/B that and see if what I'm hearing is matching up. You also have your 9 kilohertz. You can use this button here as well as the one over here. That's the majority of the big ones. Oh, here's another one I think is pretty cool. I can actually look at a list. I can change this map so it shows formats where there's a format listed. Not every station has a format, but where there's a format listed based on what the most recent updated information was, it can tell you. So if I'm hearing a talk station on 670, I can have a better shot of knowing who it is. You can also use this as well. There's a TIS database. So if you like to hunt TISs like I have always liked to do in the past, you can look at that here. And then if I change this, it gives you the full TIS list. So you can see, like I'm on 1610 now, who all the TISs are. Pretty cool, right? Oh, that's a good one. Clipping sections from a recording. I typically use Bandicam for all of my my recordings and stuff, but you bring up a really good point. So let me show you something here that's pretty cool. Let's say right now I'm gonna log a rebellion here. I've got rebellion on 670, so I click on it. I'm gonna hit show cat box. Trying to remember how I did this because this is it's been a while. I think there is where was it? Oh, here's where you set up your logs to send it to. There's an option in here to actually grab like an audio clip. And I think is it that one? Let me look in the one I haven't logged yet. I think it might be, no, maybe not. I'll have to go back. I haven't done this in such a long time because I use Bandicam now for all my stuff. But I know there's a way that you can set it up so you can actually record a little snippet of what you're hearing and save that air check. And then you can go back and you have that MP3, so you can do that. I'll play with that and do that in my video. Because I used to do it all the time, and now I forgot how to do it because it's been a while. But that is something that you can do for those who are interested in saving clips from your recordings and things like that. So we're gonna do some DX here tonight on the Jaguar software and let you guys have a chance to see it. I'm also gonna see if I can't use my phone over here as a camera and do some demonstrations of our Lankford-Misek Phaser over here, because I know Carl just recently bought one from our friend Everett N4CY, and so I want to be able to show how a Lankford-Misek Phaser works. It's a little bit different from a regular Phaser. We'll talk about that, but we're getting close to top of the hour here, so let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up week 2 of our medium wave frequency challenge, do a little bit more DX here in that 670 to 702 range, and then we'll get ready to announce week 3 on our new frequency or frequencies of the week. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's that's not what I want to do. I want to change that. There we go. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll do some more DX, and we'll bring you guys our announcement for week 3 of the Medium Wave Frequency Challenge here in just a few moments, right here on DX Central Live.
DX Central, because we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central. DX Central Live is brought to you in part by...
From the pages of its DX Monitor member bulletin, members of the International Radio Club of America share their domestic and international AM/DX loggings. In its Mexican log, a wealth of information can be found of stations from south of the border. Technical guides, sunrise, sunset maps, and more make the IRCA a must-join for any AM/DXer. For more information, log on to ircaonline.org. That's ircaonline.org. While the HF bands can be filled with entertaining and intriguing transmissions, how do you know when and where to look? Let Teague Publishing's Global Radio Guide lead the way. In addition to its exhaustive list of time and frequency for international broadcasters, radio hobby icon Gail Van Horn brings you equipment reviews, an SDR buyer's guide, feature articles, and more. Pick up your copy today. Visit teaguepublishing.com for more information. That's teaguepublishing.com. Since 1933, the National Radio Club has been serving AM/DXers while providing some of the most in-depth information in the hobby. From the annual NRC AM log, a must-have reference for domestic station information, to antenna design reference manuals, and of course, the DX News member bulletin, which is filled with station information updates, domestic and international loggings, and a whole lot more. Become a member today. For more information, log on to nationalradioclub.org. That's nationalradioclub.org.
Through crashes of static in quiet hours, we listen. In languages we can scarcely understand, and of places we have only visited in our dreams, we listen. Incessantly, we perfect our array of aerials, receivers, and resources. We refine our skills and our techniques so that we might listen. We are DX Central, and we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Keep up with DX Central. Follow us on Twitter at DX Central.
From the DX Central North Shore Studios, this is DXC Live. Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
It's DX Central Live here from the North Shore Studios in Mandeville, Louisiana. Greetings, friends. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that little look at Jaguar software. I think it's for me, it's the premier way to AMDX. Obviously, if you don't have a Perseus, not going to be much help for you. There are some great software options out there. SDR Console is one of my absolute favorites. Of course, we talked about SDR Sharp last week with the AirSpy. SDR Uno actually is another great one. I heard they're getting some pretty good updates coming here, so that's exciting. We'll look at that one as well. But let's do some DX here to finish out that 670 to 702. See if we can catch some high school football in the action as well. Again, this is an hour of DX brought to you by the International Radio Club of America, IRCA Online is where you want to go for more information. We're back here on the Jaguar software. Let's go to 700. I haven't done much on 700 this week. I have to go upper sideband here because of WQNO in New Orleans. This has got to be WLW.
We're open and ready to fix your plumbing problem. No job is too big or too small for our service experts. Go to NixcoPlumbing.com today and schedule your service call. Choose a pro. Choose Nixco.
Grainberry, healthy cereal for your family.
I'm Peter Harris for Grainberry cereals with amazing onyx sorghum. Just one bowl of Grainberry every morning can help you reach your health goals, whatever they may be.
I want to keep my family as healthy as possible, so that means I'm choosing foods high in antioxidants.
I'm focusing on my gut health, and that means adding more whole grains into my diet.
I want to lose weight, and that starts by cutting down on sugar.
At Grainberry, we call those whole goals. Every single bowl of Grainberry contains less sugar than other cereals and more of what matters most, like plant-based fiber, whole grains, antioxidants, and of course, flavor. Grainberry is great for managing diabetes, pre-diabetes, and other health-related issues. So grab a box of Grainberry with amazing onyx sorghum at Kroger today and keep your bowl goals on track.
Grainberry, healthy cereal for your family.
Brand Center Kangaroo is showing appreciation for those that serve by giving one lucky veteran a brand new roof for free. Submit a photo and why you deserve a brand new roof. See rules, details, and register at GoKangas.net. Get that luxury watch you've always dreamed of. Next weekend at Genesis Diamond. Genesis is hosting a spectacular 3-day event featuring a huge selection of pre-owned Rolex watches. Yeah, these are the timepieces you can't find anywhere, but Genesis has them. Daytona, Submariners, Pepsi, Seisha, Value Owners, and more. Come pick out your luxury pre-owned
That's WLW, huh?
and Genesis gift cards, plus 60 months special financing. Our buyers are on site for this event, so if you already own a Rolex and want to sell it, you'll get top dollar or trade yours for a different model. All Genesis luxury pre-owned Rolexes are hand-selected and rigorously inspected.
See if we can get rid of them.
Pristine condition, and our selection has never been better. Don't miss this special pre-owned Rolex buy-sell trade event at Genesis Diamonds next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes.
Driven by the all-new Podcast Perseus Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram and Fairfax. Open now for sale and service. This soon be the largest Jeep and Ram dealer in the tri-state. That's my cash.
What you got, Earl? Do you want me to check? All right, we got rid of them. And it sounds like there's something in there, possibly Latin underneath. I'm guessing it's most likely W Radio down here in Colombia, although it could be one of the Mexican stations as well. Yeah, Earl, what is it you're looking for that you want me to check for you? Happy to check that for you. Uh, 910. Okay. Let's check it 910. And what are we looking for? WBR here in Baton Rouge. Power 910. That's Cuba. I gotta get some contact cleaner. Come on. I usually don't hear them much after sunset here. That's Metropolitana down in Cuba. Let me check. Let me go over to the Elad. That's pointing north-southish. Right now it's south, but let's see if it has anything any different here. There's a La Mexicana in California, in Oxnard, that's still in daylight right now. La Raza, Esperanza. I don't know, man. Metropolitana in Cuba is probably one of the more, 75K. Probably one of the more commonly heard ones. I'm sorry, there is a Radio Mexicana in Mexico. So 1 kilowatt station right over here. Again, in daylight right now. Might not be what you're hearing there in your neck of the woods, Earl. I know you're this way, so probably not a match there, but it's on the list there, so I mean it's not impossible, right? Before we dive into the next top of the hour alert, I want to go ahead and change up and I want to change up and go ahead and announce our new frequency of the week. So one of the things that I always wanted to do last year was incorporate our friends outside of the United States more than I was, which was part of the reason I wanted to start doing ranges whenever I could. But there's only so many ranges you can do. Before you run out of frequencies, you got to start back over again. So invariably, there are going to be weeks where you have to do just one frequency. But I still want to include our friends outside of the United States. So what I've decided to do for this year is we're going to do ranges whenever we can. And usually it's where it makes sense. Like I would never do like 1250 to 1290. That's too many frequencies in there with too many stations. It would be something like, when we have like 1160 to 1220, there's a lot of clear channels in there, right, with fewer stations on it. So that's when we do a range what I usually try to do. But for this year, when I do one frequency, I'm actually going to do two. I'm going to do a 10 kilohertz US frequency and a 9 kilohertz frequency for outside of the US. That does two things. It allows our non-US DXers to play and have good fun with us as well and submit their loggings and still have something to contribute and be part of the fun. It also allows our folks on the coasts, East and West Coast, to still be able to contribute if they have a shot at a station on one of those on that frequency. So if they're, let's say we're on 1215 or I'm sorry, let's say 1215 and 910 were our two frequencies. They're not this week, but let's just say that with the two. Obviously, Rob and our East Coast folks would have a shot at UK 1215. Our folks in the West Coast would have a shot at anything 1215 over in Asia, South Pacific, down under, things like that. So, with that being said, this week we're going back to one frequency, We're going to do a US 10 kilohertz and a 9 kilohertz non-US frequency. And here we go. You guys ready? Any guesses? Any guesses? We used to like to do that last year, right? We'd try to guess what the frequency of the week is. All right, here we go. All right, 570 and 1053. Those are our two frequencies this week. Or, oh, yes, you can submit both. So if you're hearing something on 1053, you can submit that. If you're hearing something on 570, like our European and outside of the USDXers, if you have something on 570, bring it in. If you're a USDXer hearing something on 1053, bring it in. So you can do both. You can do both of those. So 570 is one of my absolute favorite frequencies of all time. So let's go down there right now, and then after we get down to the top of the hour, I'll explain why. I'm not even going to do the top of the hour alert here. Let's just go.
Some kind of a collared shirt outside the house. Unless you want to, unless you want to walk around the Bronx, you want to wear like some cool kind of Italian sweatsuit or something. Yeah, obviously there are exceptions here, but as a rule, you're completely on the right track. I'm Michael Knowles, and this is the Michael Knowles Show. It's 570 KLIF AM, Dallas, KSTS, FM, HD2, Fort Worth, a Q-News media station.
Suspended. I'm Lisa Lucera, Fox News. The entire police force for the Uvalde School District has been relieved of duty. The Uvalde School District in Texas says they're bringing in additional State Department of Public Safety troopers to be on and around campuses. They say the suspended officers will serve other roles in the district for now. The lieutenant who was put in charge following the school shooting in May and the head of student services were placed on administrative leave, though the student services director has since resigned. The suspensions come a day after the district fired a newly hired officer who'd been with Texas DPS. Trooper Crimson Elizondo was the first state trooper to enter Robb Elementary on the day of the shooting. She was under investigation for her response that day along with 6 other state troopers. 19 students were killed along with 2 teachers. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
The Arizona Court of Appeals has blocked a trial court's decision that allowed immediate enforcement of a pre-statehood law that criminalizes nearly all abortions. The ruling means abortions can begin again, at least for now, unless the state Supreme Court steps in. Gas prices were slowly going down over the summer, but now they appear to be creeping back up.
Even as prices are starting to come down on the West Coast after refinery problems there caused a surge, the national average today is 10 cents higher than it was just last week. And now, relatively low prices compared to other regions could see pump prices go up. Gas buddies Patrick DeHaan says in the South and on the East Coast, they could increase between 10 and 30 cents per gallon. That's largely because of OPEC Plus's planned production cut.
Grady Trimble with Fox Business. The woman who posed as a German heiress whose exploits were dramatized in the Netflix series Inventing Anna is being released from immigration custody. Anna Sorokin is set to be released by ICE tonight. America is listening to Fox News.
So we've got KLIF here, Dallas, Texas on 570. You're also hearing the Morse code ID, and underneath you can hear the Spanish talking from Radio Reloj here on 570. Those are our two main dominant stations. I have also heard KWML in Las Cruces, New Mexico, WTBN here in Pinellas Park, Florida, XEBGB in San Nicolas. There's something other. I can't see the whole thing there. ABC Noticias here in Mexico. This is the one right here, though, guys. I know a lot of you Midwest DXers are probably laughing. NAX, such a pest. South Dakota. Let me tell you what. That is my absolute obsession, is getting WNAX. And it's okay. It's the reason I picked 570 this week, if I'm gonna be honest. This is one of my favorite frequencies because I remember. It's one of those frequencies, like I used to be on WWNC. I used to be an on-air guy doing stuff on WWNC in Asheville when I was at Clear Channel Radio in Asheville. So that station has always been kind of like a close one to my heart. There's the KYX here in Paducah. You've got WAAX here in Gadsden. These are all ones that are very familiar for me. WMCA up in New York. I know you guys, I think Troy just heard them. KLAC LA. When I'm out in Lake Forest, I always like hearing them there. You got KVI up in the Pacific Northwest. Our West Coast DXers, you guys have some wide open space here. I think you can work with here. So anyone kind of west of the Dakotas and the Midwest here, anything west out here in the what I call Seven Land, you're gonna have some wide open space. Our East Coast folks, you're gonna have a little bit of an advantage as far as number of stations that you can hear. So from that standpoint, our winner for this week's probably going to be someone who can hear all of this stuff and hear a good chunk of these. But you can out west, you can get some of those distances. You can get probably some good transoceanic stuff on 1053. Let's look at that really quick. Let me go back over here to 1053. And let's look and see what we've got. In Africa, we have a station in Ethiopia here, a 50 kilowatt station there. In Europe, we have TalkSport in England. We have a Romanian station, 400 kilowatter. In Spain, we have a couple of stations here. We have a 20K and a 5K here in Spain. Our friends on the West Coast, you've got some stuff here in Asia that you can chase after. You got some China stations. You have a nice JOAR here in Japan, 50 kilowatter. That's an option. Did we have? I think we had some smaller 5K. Yeah, we had a 5K here in Down Under in Australia. Excuse me. Maybe some stuff here in the Philippines. I think those are a little bit 5 and 10 kilowatts. So yeah, some stuff there. Some stuff here in Asia. A little bit here in we have a Pakistani station. We have an Iranian as well. I think that was 100K. Yeah, so there's some stuff there for our international DX folks to get, and also those who do hear transoceanic stuff here from the US. You've got a shot at some stuff on 1053. And 570, obviously, Cuba is going to be widely heard across much of the US and in beyond. And then from there, it's really probably some of these coastal stations. MCA is one, LAC is another here. For those folks outside of the US, WWNC is probably that 5 kilowatter gets out really well. KLIF gets out really well, and I know WNAX gets out super great in the US and beyond, but I haven't heard them yet, and that's what we're going to shoot for this year. 570 WNAX, we're going to do it. We're going to add South Dakota and add a new state to our logbook that we don't have right now. Speaking of adding a new state, let me go back over here. We're out of top of the hour mode here. I know our friend, we had some folks here. I forget who it was actually. Earlier was talking about hearing Japan for the first time. So we have some celebrations we have to dole out. So if you have heard something new this week, either a new station that's new to you, a new state, or a new country, let us know in the chat here in a little bit. We're going to celebrate that with you. So let us know what you heard over here in the chat, and we'll celebrate for you here and get you something new. I haven't had any time to DX this week with all the repairs and upgrades to the computer and some other stuff that I was working on with the day job and everything. I haven't had time to do anything DX, so I have nothing new to contribute this week. I don't think, at least. Did I hear anything new? I feel like I might have heard one thing. Oh yeah, I did. Actually, I want to talk about that. Let me go back really quick to our frequency range from this week. Let's go back to 670 here. I was going to talk about this earlier. So I heard an outlet this week on 670 here of Radio Artemisa. I hope I'm saying that right. You guys know my Spanish is not like fluent or anything, but I try. Radio Artemisa here on 670. And Tim Trump, our DXer friend up in Michigan, was talking a bit about how he's noticed it was probably one of the other outlets, because of the hurricane that came through, Hurricane Ian, one of the other outlets was probably damaged, and so check and see where you have transmitter sites on the 670 for and then compare that to known Artemisa outlets, and see where you have a match. So I actually found here in Bahia Honda. I don't know. There's a 5 kilowatt Rebeldi outlet here in this city, and then there's a 1020 Artemisa outlet in the same city. So my guess was this was a replacement for 1020, probably a damage to the outlet. However, I did hear this week, while I'm still hearing the 670 Artemisa, because I was paralleling them with their website, I was also hearing a very weak version of Artemisa here on 1020, and the modulation was kind of dirty. So that right now could be an option. If you're looking for Radio Artemisa in Cuba, check 670. You're going to hear the Rebeldi wall, which you can pair all of that to 1180 and 1550, and figure out which one of those is Rebeldi. And then the one that's not Rebeldi, check and see. You can run up against our website. You can also check and see if you're hearing 670 and 1020 parallel each other for Radio Artemisa. Just a little tip for you. I also heard this week Radio Guama in Santa Lucia on the West Coast. I heard them daytime here in Mandeville at I'm sorry, no, it was a radio, 1348, 148 Central Time. I heard Radio Guama there. Pretty cool. Daytime here from Mandeville. So yeah, some Cubans that are there for you guys on 670 and possibly even 1020 if you want it. Let's go back down the basement here in 570 kilohertz. Justin, you got that new RSP SDR Play RSP SDR. This is a great time to test that one out, my friend. See how that's working down low for you. I know you were having trouble on the down low part of the band with the dongle you were using, but this will be a great chance for you to test that out. Speaking of our friend Justin, which you guys know that Justin runs a live stream as well, live AMDX stream he does with his YouTube channel. It's UB Studios. He does live streams as well, and he's a great friend of the channel. And he actually nominated this week our DXC Tweet of the Week. You guys know that if you're on Twitter and you're following us on Twitter, make sure you use hashtag DXC Tweet of the Week, and you can nominate any AM or FM DX related tweet that you think is worthy of being the Tweet of the Week. And Justin actually nominated our Tweet of the Week this week. So let's take a look and see what it was.
It's time for the DX Central Live hashtag Tweet of the Week. Tweet. Tweet, tweet.
Thank you, computer voice. And here's our Tweet of the Week for the week here. Let's go ahead and pull it up. From another good friend of the channel here, Sean Kutsko, KX9X. He has really got the AM bug, been bitten pretty well here recently. He was doing some work. I mentioned earlier, right? You're in the shack, you're just kind of passively DXing while you're working on something else. You got the radio on and you're doing some DX. Well, he was doing that. He was working on some ham radio grid square research and was DXing 740 AM Zoomer radio out of Toronto into his location in Champlain. Let's listen to a little bit of the audio he got. So there you go, Zoomer radio going into Illinois, and that's our DXC Tweet of the Week is nominated by our friend Justin up in Minnesota. So thank you, Justin, for nominating, and thank you, Sean, KX9X, for that great tweet this week, and reminding us that just because you're busy doing other stuff in the shack doesn't mean you can't enjoy some time to DX.
It's time for the DX Central Live hashtag Tweet of the Week. Tweet. Tweet, tweet.
All right, so back to the live DX here. We are sitting on 570. Let's move it over. We haven't done anything yet, really of substance, on our FlexRadio SDR. This is my ham radio transceiver that I use for ham radio work. So we're going to do a little bit of DX on that right now. So we're on 570 for our frequency of the week here in the US. Again, for those who may have just joined, we have just announced our new frequency of the week. I'll be putting up on social media and on the email reflectors here in a bit, and on the blog on our website, which is dxcentralonline.com. Make sure you check that out. 570 is our one of our frequencies. We also have 1053. We're doing two frequencies this week, And anytime that we do a single frequency rather than a range, we're going to do two frequencies, a US and a non-US, 10 kilohertz split and a 9 kilohertz split. So we're going to do the 10 kilohertz split frequency right now, which is 570 kilohertz. And I have two antennas here. I have my W6 LVP loop, and I can switch between the two. Looks like they're pretty much the same right now. Yeah. So let's go over here to our W6 LVP loop. We're pointing roughly northwest. Let's take a look and see what we got. Hey, okay, Bill, I'll fix that up. I thought I'd already taken that out. Try it again for me. Let me know if it works for you now. Thanks, Bill. Oh. Let's give a big round of applause here to our friend Bill Curry, last year's Medium Wave Frequency Challenge winner. Winning the overall year, right? Having the most logs of the year comes with some perks. Bill was able to get a sneak peek this season before we actually did our first week. We did a trial run where we invited Bill and some other folks to join us, and so that was a little perk. And he's our moderator this week on our chat, our live chat that we have over here. So thank you, Bill, for being a moderator and keeping all the perverts out. we really appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for standing up and taking that responsibility, because it's hard to do that and the DX and everything else at the same time. So thank you. I figure if you guys are looking for dating sites, other than DXersOnly.com, you probably already have one picked out. So the recommendations in the chat probably aren't really what we need here. Charles, I believe that's probably noise. If you're talking about this one over here, right here, that's probably noise. Let me go over here and see. Is that what, 582-ish? Yeah, I think that's just noise. We have some noise that these loops are picking up from our local neighbor house. So most likely we have KLIF. Let's do a comparison here with our Jaguar software and see if that's what we got.
And I love this alternate language, green lit, we're going to total gangster criminal culture that is the Democrat Party, the violence, the criminality, the Democrat Party. And the guy who used to be his manager, I like that part. That was good. Then he talked about his father, who was a member of the Black Panthers and obviously a racial radical. He said his father doesn't listen to rap music. I thought that was kind of fun and interesting. And I said, well, but you're pro-life and you wear this White Lives Matter T-shirt and MAGA hat. And he said his father called him after it went public that he was wearing this White Lives Matter.
So 570, we have WWNC right now, according to Bill, is running high school football, which back when I was on the air, I used to do the scoring updates, like halftime scores and all the little breaks and stuff in between. That was one of the things that I did with them. Barry, no bueno. We had like one opening, maybe a couple of Tropo openings down in New Mexico. We had a nice little opening up into the Northeast. I have some review to do on that, the recordings that I did during that, but like 1 or 2 openings, that was about it. But we'll talk about that later on in another episode.
Suicidal, genocidal racist would say anything other than that, but the Democrat Party has stocked the pound well with genocidal racists, the party of slavery and the bullwhip and everything else. Well,
we've got some music in there.
That says the obvious thing. And then he talks about...
So we've got some music coming in, and it's not real low.
Why I wrote White Lives Matter on the shirt is because they do. That's the obvious thing.
Ah, yes, well, the White Lives Matter. That's it. Why, hey, why'd you wear the shirt? Well, because they do. Well, that seems pretty obvious. So I guess you're not a... And then this is the Democrat Party he's talking about.
We have Columbia coming in here. Could be that Rebellion outlet too. Let's look at that and see. Nope. That is not the Rebellion outlet. Again, if you have new logs, new states, new countries, let us know in the chat. We're going to celebrate you here in a few. There's Relo. All right, Carl, we got you in here. We got Earl, we got you in here. All right, so we got Earl and we got Carl. Anybody else we're missing with new logs, new states, new country this week? That's what we're hearing here too, Danny. I'm thinking it's probably Colombia. We have a Radio Nacional de Colombia here. That's my guess for the salsa sounding music. It's not Rebellion. We verified that on a parallel, and it's definitely not Relo. Oh, yeah, it's Charles got Japan. Sorry. Got you. So that's my guess right there, 100 kilowatt El Rosal. You know what we can do here? Let's swap over to the South Kaz.
Jesus, the left killed God. The state is God. There's the rise of the ocean. Save us from the sexual apocalypse. And then I've got Jason Whitlock coming up. We have a few things to say about this interview that I found fascinating and sounded familiar as well. You're listening to the Chris Plant Show.
President Trump just made a big post to his Truth Social, and he's praising Dick Morris's new book. Trump says Dick Morris's bestseller is a great book.
Okay, so there we are. We got Rob has got a new one. Anybody catch what that one was? I didn't have it up very loud. Got you in there, Dave, with a new one. All right, so we've got contemporary music here on the South Kaz. And that sounds like what we have on our double Kaz here with the Phaser. Let's go back to the South Kaz. Hey Danny, let me know if that live stream changes to this contemporary music here, this pop music. Because they will go back and forth, that network does. Hey, Lacrosse, throw that sucker in lower sideband so you can get away from the slop. That should help. They'll be real low for you there, Troy. Should be one coming up here. There you go. I thought that might be them. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Earl. Bay Ho to Bay. Bay Ho to Bay. That's who that is. That's not Columbia, guys. The pop music that we're hearing here is Bay Hota Bay in Mexico. That's who we got here. So this pop station we have here, that's XEBJB in Mexico. So we've got, I guess the salsa we had earlier may have faded out. And I did hear, or you're right, I did hear kind of an ID there that it sounded like they were saying Colombia, but I didn't know for sure because I didn't have my volume up very high. But that station there, the pop station, is 100% Hota Bay. Justin, that's how you know you made it, man. That's how you know you made it. You start getting the dating sites. All right, we're at bottom half of the hour. Let's do a quick celebration for all of our friends here that have heard some new stuff this week. So I know we got Carl in there, we got Earl in there, we've got Charles in there. Let me go back and scroll back up here. So I don't want to just gloss over this, guys. I want to make sure we get a good pat on the back for you here. Troy, new log, new state, KGGF in Kansas, 690. Troy got a new state this week and a new log. So yes, sir. We've got some more in here. Let me go down here. We have... I'm sorry. Troy. I got Troy and Carl both. Troy and Carl both. KGGF, Kansas, new log, new state. Let's see who else we had. We had Earl in there. Earl Higgins. 4 new ones for him. KILJ 1130, Mount Pleasant, Iowa. WGMP 1170, Montgomery, the Gump. From our frequency range in week 1 there. WMGC 810, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. KNX 920, Wingham, Ontario. So new logs, 4 new logs for Earl. You get... Yeah! Let's see who else we got that had a new one here this week. I know we had KNBR heard this week, and we also had our friend Justin up in Minnesota heard KGO. So there you go. Charles got himself Japan. You get... Yes, sir. New country for Charles there. And we have another new country. Rob. BBC 5, 693. You get... Actually, I don't think that was new country because you had absolute. So we're going to give you that... And another new log, Dave Gaska got KHSE, Wiley, Texas, 700 kilohertz. You get... Has anybody else added anything in here? Anybody else? Anybody else? Getting rowdy. All right, there we go. I think that's everybody. If I've missed anybody that got new logs, new state, new country, please let me know in the chat. I don't want you to go uncelebrated, my friends. We need to get you some pats on the back. Bill says you're going to run out of trees if y'all keep getting logs. That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's see here. Why is Venezuela so hard to get? Barry wants to know. That's a great question, and it's one I don't really have a great answer for you on. I'm going to assume it is a result of their economic situation that they're in right now. I know Venezuela is still heard. I heard them last year on 910. There is a station down there, RQ. So they say it's RQ. So that's been heard. I've also heard, I think it was 780, wasn't it? Venezuela 780, I think, was the other Venezuelans that I've heard. Yeah, Radio Coro. I know there's a Radio Room, but I don't see them logged as often as I used to, and I don't know if it's because their economic situation. Maybe they're not broadcasting at all. I don't know. Maybe they're very limited schedules. Maybe they're down on their power. I don't know. I wish I had a good answer for you on that one, because that's one I've been scratching my head on too, is that I don't see the proliferation of Venezuelans like I used to. They used to be much more frequent. Now, Colombia, yeah. Colombia's there all the time on numerous frequencies. I know a lot of our East Coast guys are able to hear down here in Brazil a lot. I've heard them once when I was in Charleston. That's about it. And of course, we have Ecuador and Peru that we hear from time to time here on the west coast of South America. But Venezuela, it's gotten to be a tougher one. If anybody has some good beat on it or some good intel to share with us on that one, let us know in the chat over here, because that's one I would like to have a good answer to as well, because I would like to add more Venezuelans to the logbook here in Mandeville. They just have been few and far between. So that's where we are with that one. Back to, actually before, let's go ahead and get back to the DX. Yeah, that Bonaire Kiwi SDR, that going down was such a great SDR. That was my absolute favorite. That one and the one in Key West were the two best ones. The Brownsville Kiwi is great for Mexico, the one in Brownsville, Texas, but the one in Bonaire and the one in Key West for Cuba and Central America, Bonaire for into South America. And that's actually how I heard Venezuela for the first time. I had Radio Coro on 780 coming in, and I mashed it up with the Kiwi SDR because there was no stream for Coro. And I didn't have an ID coming from them, but I had very distinct audio. I actually have a video of it up here on the YouTube channel. You guys can check out. Just search Venezuela Radio Coro, and it's a quandary for me. And I think, Earl, I think you're right. I think it's either they're super low power because they're trying to conserve power because their electrical grid's not great, or they're just not on. They just quit broadcasting. So that's my guess. That's the best guess I got based on what I know of their economic situation. But it's a shame because that's a great country to hear out of South America. That's becoming increasingly more difficult. Here's Rouleau again. Okay, Earl, hold on. Earl says he just tuned in the TWR Bonaire Kiwi SDR. I'm getting this on the link that I had. Let me go to the map. They must have changed their URL. So let's go here to Le Map. And for those of you who are not familiar with this, actually is a good introduction for you, rather. If you go to KiwiSDR.com, I'll put it up on screen here for you. KiwiSDR.com. These are online SDRs that you can use as tools. I personally am not one of those who believe that it is ethical or whatever for a DXer to use an online SDR that is not their equipment, or maybe is not a piece of equipment that, like I know some of you guys have friends, right? Like I think Earl, you have a friend in the area that has near you that has an online SDR that you use, and that's great. But I think that the temptation is there for me to log into an SDR in Japan or whatever, right? And then start logging all this stuff and saying, I heard this and this and this and this and this, and everybody thinks I'm hearing it from here. I'm not, right? That's where I kind of have some whatever. But these are fantastic tools to use for helping you hear what you're hearing, what you think you're hearing, and maybe spot and see if it really is them. So if you go to KiwiSDR.com, go to map here, and you'll actually see a map here. Like it's definitely one thing. Like if I was using a local SDR that was here nearby to kind of help kind of compare or whatever, or even just DX with somebody else's equipment that might be less noisy or whatever, that's one thing. But if I was to go over here and say, all right, I'm a DX from Japan and start logging stuff over here in Asia, I'm not sure how I feel about that. All right, so we have, we do have a Bonaire. Is this the key, the Trans-World Radio Kiwi? They're all busy. You guys gobbled them up. You guys gobbled up all the open channels here. We've got, I do miss the Key West one. Oh, it was right down here, and you could hear Cuba in the daytime. It was such a great SDR. As it is, this one here in Brownsville is super helpful here. I think it's this one, or is it this one? Is it number 2? So, for instance, let's go down here to 570 and see what we have here on 570 lower sideband. I wonder if it's the other one. There was another one there in Brownsville. One of these is just super good for Mexican radio stations. Let's try the other one here. We did the number 2. Let's look at the regular one. That's still more noise than I usually hear out of that SDR. That's a lot more noisy than they've ever had from when I've listened. Usually it's pretty quiet. That's kind of noisy. So yeah, that's a great option. There's other ones. You can also do the same thing with like SDR Console and Perseus. You can do some online SDRs that way, but this is probably the more famous one because you got this nice shiny map that you can use to kind of find locations that you want to DX from. We used to have one in Charleston. Somebody had one near where I was at when I was there. But yeah, you can see here. So if you're trying to narrow down, I think I've got Colorado. The tricky part is some of these are on antenna. And so the reception, I don't know of many. There are a few that are specialized in AMDX, like our friend Colin and team up here in Vancouver. They run some that are more kind of private. But you'll see here on the map, you'll see these that are kind of scattered around. So if you think, I think I've got Colorado, maybe you try to find a Kiwi SDR that's located in Colorado, tune into the frequency that you're listening on, and see if you hear a match. You know, or I mean, obviously you can do a live stream from like the station website as well, but maybe they're running syndicated programming and maybe they're running like a game or something. And so their online stream isn't carrying the game, but you want to see if they are carrying the game on the actual on-air signal, this is a great way to do it. So yeah, kiwisdr.com, guys, is a great option for you. So yeah, I'll have to go back and look at that when the channels are available, Earl. Last time I checked, I didn't see a TWR Bonaire one, but it's good if they do have one back again. That would be great, because that was such a valuable resource for South America research, especially Venezuela, Colombia, stuff like that, because it's right there. So thank you for the heads up on that. I appreciate that, my friend. Back to DX. Yeah, Justin, I know you do the same thing. You've got a local friend there in your area that helps you get around some of the noise problems you have from interference from CCO and stuff like that. So yeah, that's totally understandable. And situations like that, and I know Earl, I think you, like I said, you got one too. So stuff like that, totally understandable. Those are very reasonable situations. Where I have had issues where I've seen other DXers before is, claiming receptions that are from actual SDRs way across the other side of the world and trying to say, yeah, I heard this from Kansas. I heard Japan. Here it is. And that's super loud. And no, they were listening to an online SDR. Those are the ones I haven't kind of with. So, but I'm not going to belabor the point. All right, so we're about 45 here after the hour. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to do some more live DX here. We're going to do some look at, again, 570, and if you guys have a frequency you want us to check out, just because we're on 570 for the week for the frequency challenge, doesn't mean we can't check other stuff. I know Earl was looking at 910 earlier. Sorry, my friend. I just don't get much Baton Rouge here this time of the night on that frequencies. But if you have a frequency you're on and you want us to check it out and see if there's anything that we're hearing you want to compare, let us know in the chat. We would love to do that with you. So let's take a quick break, and we'll come back more live DX from right here on DX Central Live.
DX Central, because we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central. DX Central Live is brought to you in part by...
Since 1933, the National Radio Club has been serving AMDXers while providing some of the most in-depth information in the hobby. From the annual NRC AM log, a must-have reference for domestic station information, to antenna design reference manuals, and of course, the DX News Member Bulletin, which is filled with station information updates, domestic and international loggings, and a whole lot more. Become a member today. For more information, log on to nationalradioclub.org. That's nationalradioclub.org. While the HF bands can be filled with entertaining and intriguing transmissions, how do you know when and where to look? Let Teak Publishing's Global Radio Guide lead the way. In addition to its exhaustive list of time and frequency for international broadcasters, radio hobby icon Gail Van Horn brings you equipment reviews, an SDR buyer's guide, feature articles, and more. Pick up your copy today. Visit teakpublishing.com for more information. That's teakpublishing.com. From the pages of its DX Monitor Member Bulletin, members of the International Radio Club of America share their domestic and international AMDX loggings. In its Mexican log, a wealth of information can be found of stations from south of the border. Technical guides, sunrise, sunset maps, and more make the IRCA a must-join for any AMDXer. For more information, log on to ircaonline.org. That's ircaonline.org.
Through crashes of static in quiet hours, we listen. In languages we can scarcely understand, and of places we have only visited in our dreams, we listen. Incessantly, we perfect our array of aerials, receivers, and resources. We refine our skills and our techniques so that we might listen. We are DX Central, and we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Keep up with DX Central. Follow us on Twitter at DX Central.
From the DX Central North Shore Studios, this is DXC Live. Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
From the DX Central North Shore Studios here in Mandeville, Louisiana. Every Friday night here on YouTube at 6:45 Central Time, 23:45 UTC. We join you for DX Central Live, bringing you live DX, medium wave frequency challenges, tips and tricks, and kind of how-to stuff, especially about using SDRs and a whole lot more. So I had a conversation here a second ago through YouTube comments. Actually, I posted the week 1 results video up on the on YouTube here on the channel. Our friend Steve McDonald in Canada actually made a really great point, and I wanted to kind of touch on it here and get your thoughts, because this is your channel too, guys. This is I do this whole thing as a service to you, so you tell me what works best for you, because I'm trying to find a way, because the write-ups I used to do last year post week, right? So after the week was wrapped up, I'd do all the analysis and everything, do the write-up, and it was a lot of work to kind of put those together. So part of the reason that I did a video this year was I thought a visual representation was helpful and kind of more fun, and I could also just set a template and just swap out names and numbers and things like that. But Steve was like, hey, I still like seeing all the full write-up with all the information and everything, so I can kind of compare what other folks are hearing to what I'm hearing and stuff like that. So great point. I'm still going to put up a blog post later on tonight or tomorrow on our website here, dxcentralonline.com. That'll have a link to the video. It'll have a link to the Google Sheet so you guys can get the raw data and also see the tables that I built and everything. So you'll still have access to all that kind of stuff. But do you think there's still value in the full write-up that we were doing last year? You guys let me know, because like I said, this is your channel as well. I want to make sure that you're getting, I want to balance that efficiency, and I can find a way to make it more efficient so I can just kind of plug in stuff into the write-up. I can try to do that. So I want to balance that efficiency with valuable information. I would lean more on the valuable information. If it takes a little more time to put together, but there are people who are seeing value in it, I'll do the write-up. If people aren't reading the write-up and all they really care about is getting the access to the data, I'll make sure you have that. We'll do the highlights on the video, and then we're good to go. So just let me know. You can let us know in the chat. You can also pin us on Twitter, twitter.com/DXCentral. You can email me, info@dxcentralonline.com, and we'll take your advice, take your thoughts. Let me know what you think. This is a two-way road that we're on here. Let's go back to the DX. Of course, this live hour of AMDX is brought to you by National Radio Club, nationalradioclub.org. That is the website for more information about becoming a member, and we suggest that you do. Both IRCA and NRC, great clubs to be a part of. The benefits definitely outweigh what little costs there are. Troy said he likes the write-ups, like sifting through the data as well. So, hey, valid point. So is it the data in there. Did you just read the write-up and that was it, or did you read the write-up and then go to the Excel or the Google Sheets file and get all the data? Which one gave you more value? I just want to make sure I'm giving the one to everybody that provides the value. So let me know. Is that Columbia? Come on, give me Columbia back here. So we've got a station that sounds kind of salsa-y. Willie Colon, Hector Lavoe-ish. Actually, that might be them. That might be the Fanta All-Stars. Or Fanya. Is it Fanya? Fanya All-Stars. Fanta is a drink. Screwed that up. That sounds so Hector Lavoe, Willie Colon-ish. I would imagine that's Columbia. If anyone has a beat on it on their live stream, let me know. Because that would be cool. My first two of my first three logs here being Cuba and Colombia. That'd be nice. I have a story about the Fania All-Stars, Willie Colon, Hector Lavoe. I'll tell you guys later on. On the South Cavs over here on the Elad, we got him in. Nice. Back to the Jaguar. Nice, Danny. Yeah, I'll have to tell you that story. How I was introduced to the music. I became such a big fan. There was... Bill, our moderator, tells me it is that time. Top of the hour alert time, guys. We are back in it here for another top of the hour alert. Let's go. Haley's got Bartlett, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee on 1210 right now. Nice. So here on 570 so far, KLIF Dallas, we've got Radio Reloj Cuba, and we also have Hota Bay here in Mexico, and now Colombia, Radio Nacional de Colombia, which you heard an ID from them a few moments ago. After their salsa music. They're starting to fade out a little bit here. Let's go back to the South Cas, though. Let me turn off the big key lights here. You can see we're code red here in the shack. Bill's on top of that tonight. Check that. See how much difference it makes having someone moderating the chat? Thanks, Bill. You're awesome, man. All right, let's go back over here to Jaguar. Oh, we got nice over here. Thank you, Danny. Nice. A couple of IDs in there for Columbia. Awesome. Anytime I get to hear a station from Columbia, it's just, even the ones that I've heard before, it's always something special. Let me try to get my blue. There's my blue again. Why isn't this working? There we go. All right. Let me turn back on our lights here. There we go. All right. So let's take a look here what we've got for 570. We've got KLIF in Dallas so far. We've got Radio Reloj down in Cuba. We've got Radio Nacional de Colombia, as you heard there. And we also have XEBJB, Jotebe, in Mexico, Monterrey, Mexico. So that's 4 stations we have here on 570 so far, with eyes on KWML here in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and the big prize. This is the one that I'm chasing hard this week. All antennas are going to be pointed. The 330 is going to be revved up. I'm actually going to swap that over to my Perseus tonight. We're going to be looking for WNAX here in Yankton, South Dakota, so we can get that one. I'll tell real quick a couple things. Carl, if you're still on, my friend, I had planned on using my iPhone here as a camera. You see my dog. There's my dog wearing sunglasses, because that's what she does, because she's a rock star. I was going to use my phone as a camera here and bring that in to show a close-up of the Lankford-Misek Phaser and how I use this. And the reason I was going to do that is because it's a little bit different. I know you have an MFJ-1026. I've got one, and I'm working on getting back up and running again. It's a little bit different than the MFJ. So with most phasers, the Quantum Phaser did this, the MFJ does it. You have a level set that you have to do, because you have 2 different antennas, and it's assuming that they're 2 different antennas of different gain. So you have to level set those antennas and get them to the same level of the 2 signals, and then you can adjust the phase and kind of go from there. What the Lankford-Misek does is it assumes you actually have 2 antennas of similar or same gain. In this case, I have 2 antennas with 23 dBs of gain because I'm using Wellbrook amplifiers on my kHz's. So you don't level set it. You just tweak the phase. And so I don't know if I can get it in here very well because it's kind of tucked in. Here it is. So I don't know what Everett's is going to look like. His might be a little bit different, but mine, I have my antenna switch here in the middle. I have a knob over here on the far right, or left rather, a knob on the far right, and then I have 2 knobs down here at the bottom. This is a Colin Newell built Lankford-Misek Phaser. So again, yours that Everett's making or has made is probably a little bit different. So with these knobs, what you're basically adjusting is you're adjusting the phase. So on my phaser, for instance, position 1 is one antenna, position 2 is the other antenna, position 3 is both of those antennas. Position 4 reverses the polarity of both of those antennas, because sometimes you have to do that to get a good phase, right? So what you're adjusting here on these knobs, you're actually adjusting the phase directly. You're not adjusting the levels, you're just adjusting the phase. So so that's the two big knobs. Those are kind of the coarse, and it takes some tweaking. So I'm just getting used to. Like, I usually start with the one on the right, tweak that until I get a dip in the signal that I'm trying to get rid of, and then I start tweaking the one on the left until I get a dip. And if I can't get that in position 3, then I go to position 4, which is the reverse polarity, and I do the same exercise. And what I usually do with phasing is I'll adjust it one way until I get a dip, and then once I've gotten that dip, I'll keep going until the dip is done, and then it starts to come back up again. Then I'll go back down to where I had the dip, then I adjust the other one, right? And I'm doing the same thing. I'm adjusting for the dip, and I keep going, and then it starts coming back up, and then I go back to the dip, and I just kind of use that. And then down here at the bottom, there are two knobs, which are the fine-tuning knobs that I can use to kind of adjust that and try to get the deepest null that I can. So it's a little bit different with the Lankford-Misek than you see normally on like an MFJ or quantum phaser, things like that. It's just a little bit different setup. Make sure I got my camera good. Yeah, there we go. Oops. It's a little bit different because you're not adjusting levels. You're just adjusting the phase itself by tweaking those two knobs, and then the two fine tunes to get a nice deep null on the. Once you've got your overall null down, you got to a nice low level, then you're adjusting those two fine tune knobs to kind of really dial it in. So I'm very excited for you, my friend. And also I want to hear what you think of the LZ1AQ loop amplifiers, because I'm always looking for ways to try out new stuff. And so if Everett's going to build any more, I might have to jump on one of those and try that out down the line. And then Danny, I know we talked about you here with the Hector Lavoe, Willie Colon stuff. My story on that, I was working at a call center in Greenville, South Carolina. And hey, actually, Bill, that's a great idea. I do have some videos I used to do on phasing, but that needs an update, especially once I get my MFJ back up and running. I might do a video on both of those, MFJ and the Lankford-Misek phasers, and how phasing works and all that kind of stuff, and just break it down without being super technical, because that's always my complaint. And that's part of why I started DX Central, was everybody was always super technical. Like, I just needed to know how I do it and how that applies to my DX, right? That's what I was looking for, and no one was, a lot of folks weren't doing that, so I said, I'm just going to make it. Right. So that's a great idea. Danny, though, I was working at a contact center in Greenville, South Carolina, and my supervisor was a gentleman from Colombia, and him and I were, I was kind of working right underneath him. I was he was a supervisor, I was a supervisor in training. And so we kind of got to talking, and he learned that I'm a music guy, and I write my own music and perform my music. He heard one of my songs, and he really liked it. And he's like, hey, you're a music guy, I need to introduce you to some of my music. And I was like, let's do it, because I was talking to him about my fascination with Latin America. I didn't go into the DX part of it and how I DX Latin America pretty not exclusively, but pretty seriously. And that's like my favorite thing to DX, right? So he was like, I didn't introduce you to some of my music. So that became a car ride where he was driving around. He was playing me some of the Foggy All-Stars, right? Hector Lavoe, Willie Colon, things like Calle Luna, Calle Sol. What were some of the other ones? The Hustler was on there. Where's my thing? Todo Tiene Su Final, which is one of my absolute favorite songs. So he's playing all this stuff, and he's explaining to me what's going on in the songs, because I don't speak the language. I'm not fluent, rather. So he's explaining to me all the storylines behind the songs, and I'm just engrossed in this amazing music, and I've been hooked ever since. And bringing that back to DX, I was sitting on the beach in February of 2021 on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, bone-chilling cold, absolutely just sitting there frigid, and I was tuned in. I forget the frequency, but I was hearing a station up in the Northeast, and then I heard this Todo Tiene Su Final start to fade up, and it was a station down in Florida that I was starting to get Sunrise Skip bringing this Florida station up, and I'm sitting there freezing on the beach, but jamming out to some Hector Lavoe and some Willie Colon. So anytime I hear them on AMDX, I kind of, even if it's a station I already have, I stop what I'm doing and I listen, because I love that music. So I gotta branch out and learn some more besides the songs that I know from them and other artists. I need to lose some other artists as well. So if you have any recommendations, shoot them my way. Let's finish up our DX here. We'll do a little bit more. I think I have a dog that needs to go outside and tinkle here. So we'll finish up some DX here for this hour. Let's go back to 570 and see if we have anything besides those two. Let me go back to my Northwest. It really is, Daddy. I mean, it started for me, my fascination with Latin America started with my mother, who, is a lot of you guys know, is a shortwave DXer, and it did a lot of DX in the tropical bands. And so Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, all the, you know, tropical band stuff that she was hearing, that was like her fascination. So I kind of picked up on that, became fascinated with Ecuador and Peru and the Inca and the Andes and all that kind of stuff. So when I started DXing, it was, how do I hear all that? So for me, the biggest thrills I've had at DX were hearing Peru and Ecuador for the first time on AM radio. That was just, just huge. Bolivia's next on my target list. There comes Willow, the DX dog. You need to go outside, don't you? You want Daddy to finish doing some DX and go take you outside? Is that what you're telling me? Give me 5. Yeah, 5. There, 5. There we go. So we got Rolo in there. I've heard We Fell in Love in a Hopeless Place, which is probably Bejote Bay there in Mexico. And I'm hearing some talk, which is probably KLI. So there you go. Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up. I see Barry. Take care, my friend. 73. Best of DX to you. So yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up for tonight, guys. I gotta take the dog out here and let you go forth. I'll be posting on social media and the email reflectors here pretty soon, the Google form link and the official announcement to everybody else that didn't get the stream tonight for our new week 3 medium wave frequency challenge frequency. So go forth, 570, 1053. Have fun, my friends. May that bring you some new stuff, new countries, new stuff, so that next week we can give you the celebrations here with the log or the passport or whatever it might be. Let's hope lots of that for next week, right? Yeah. All right, my friends, take care. 73 Best of DX. Thank you so much for being part of the fun, as always. We'll see you next week right here on DX Central Live. Take care.
This is DX Central Live.